You know what? You gotta let go. Gotta let go. What's past is past. What's gone is gone. Yesterday's history. Tomorrow is a mystery. But today is a gift. That's why they call it the present.
Oh, man.
You can do this. You got this. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Hey Hodinkee, where we answer the ultimate Hey Hodinkee question: hot dogs or tacos?
As a Chicagoan, I've always wondered why some world timers feature Mexico City and some feature Chicago for the Central Time Zone. Is it because more watches are sold in the respective city, or is it population? I even believe some makers have switched from one to the other and back again over the years. What gives? And are there other zones where two major cities compete like this?
Well, I mean, that's a very interesting question. Honestly, I think the reason that Mexico City features more prominently than Chicago nowadays on world timers is because it's just a much more interesting city.
Huh?
You know, I mean, vibrant culture, vibrant food culture. Chicago, what do you got? Hot dogs and Wrigley Field, right? I mean, anyway, in all seriousness, probably the reason is because if you look at world time watches, different cities have been featured on world time watch dials at different times, depending on how prominent the cities were economically. There's actually a really wonderful article that was published in the Financial Times that talks about how the cities used on world time watches have changed over the years. And they actually track pretty closely to which cities represent major centers of wealth and major markets for watches. So Mexico City, for instance, is a major hub for watch retail throughout Mexico, Central America, and South America. It's incredibly important to the Swiss watch industry economically. So it makes a little bit more sense, probably, for them to have a city on the dial which is sort of a tip of the hat to an entire region, rather than a city on the dial that's just a tip of the hat to a single city.
I've been collecting watches for a long time, and it's been a great journey. But it's time to thin the herd and invest some cash in a new business. Here's my collection. Rolex Submariner Hulk 11610LV, Submariner Date 11610L9, Coke GMT 16760, Daytona White Dial 116500LN, Omega Seamaster 210.32.42.20.06.001, Speedmaster Ultraman 311.12.42.30.01.001, Speedmaster 1957 Trilogy 311.10.39.30.01.001.4500, JLC Reverso 1931 Q2788570, Geophysics Limited Edition 800 PZAS, Q8008520, Patek Philippe Nautilus 5711, Aquanaut 5167A. I'd like to keep 5 watches. Which ones would you recommend?
I would probably keep the GMT Master, the White Dial Daytona, the 1931 Nautilus, and I'm kind of at a loss to pick a 5th, honestly. Those 4, actually, I think would make a fantastic 4-watch collection. Although, in keeping the Nautilus, you're probably giving up the one that would provide you with the most ready cash to leverage into your new business. The nice thing about those watches is that they're all kind of quintessential representations of their particular type of watch. The 1931, for instance, it's not exactly a copy-paste of a Reverso from 1931, but it's the purest expression, I think, of the Reverso in a long time. The same can be said of the GMT Master. It is representative of a type. It's also a very useful watch. I think much more practical as a complicated watch than the Submariner, which is not, of course, a complicated watch. But if you're doing any traveling at all, I think the GMT Master will stand you in good stead. It's an interesting collection that you have put together, but I think those 4 watches really represent the best of what's great about the collection that you have.
Blued hands! They're everywhere in watches. How did they become a part of dress watch visual DNA? I've heard heat bluing is used elsewhere, but I have yet to see that exact and distinctive heat blued look in anything but a watch.
So heat bluing is a very interesting technique. Historically, it's been used as kind of an anti-rust, anti-corrosion treatment method, and it is very often found historically in firearms as well, where you will often see heat blued gun barrels. This helps to reduce the amount of glare that you would get looking down the barrel when sighting on a target. In watchmaking, it's used to create a contrast between the color of the dial and the hands themselves. It enhances legibility, and it's also a very, very beautiful effect in its own right. You can see all sorts of heat bluing on vintage pocket watches where it was used a great deal. And every once in a while, you can also see hands that are tempered to a different color. For example, Moritz Grossman actually tempers some of its hands to a beautiful violet brown color, which you can also see on some vintage American pocket watches.
Jack, tell us about your new shirt.
Oh, yeah, it's actually a pretty old shirt. I figured I would just, try something a little different than the cardigan, but I already kind of regret that decision. It's, I feel, I don't know, like an imposter. I feel like Jack with the cardigan really is, hey, Hodinkee Jack.